Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please subscribe and keep watching for more detailed videos. You might think of Bluesy Burke as just another name in the sprawling tapestry of General Hospital, but there's a depth there that turns heads. Everything about Bluesy is built on contradictions, kind and fierce, vulnerable and guarded, fiercely loyal but sometimes at odds with her loyalties. She emerges in scenes not to linger in the background, but to shift atmospheres. It begins with her emotional core. Bluesy isn't someone who stays detached. She feels deeply. When things crack, she shows cracks. When she loves with abandon. That emotional investment changes everything about how she interacts with others, how she responds to crisis, how even her walk across a room speaks volumes. Many characters may be tougher or more hardened, but Bluesy stands out because her inner life colors everything. You understand where she's coming from even before she opens her mouth. Her backstory is stitched with pain, choices, and consequences. There are fragments that linger: family, loss, maybe betrayal. We see hints that she's survived more than just one hardship. Bits of regret, longing, and unhealed wounds shape decisions. There are threads of where she grew up, who she lost, what she did or didn't do, that push her forward. Maybe she made mistakes. Certainly she has regrets. Part of what makes her trajectory compelling is how those regrets shadow her not as something she ruminates eternally, but as things she encounters, steps over, or tries to reconcile. That kind of haunted past does more than create sympathy. It sets up conflict. Because when someone with Bluesy's history meets someone or something that triggers old fears, she reacts. Not always in the ways you expect. Another thing, Bluesy's relationships are quieter than explosive but often more real. She's not constantly in the limelight with dramatic confrontations or bombshell reveals, although she has her moments. Instead, her friendships, her alliances, her romantic or family ties are built in small things. A text when someone's hurting. A protective move towards someone she perceives as vulnerable. An argument she didn't need to win but couldn't walk away from. Those interactions reveal more than a shouted clash ever could. The way she watches someone she cares about from across a room. The way she hesitates before saying something that could hurt. These subtle moments, the pauses, the looks, those are the moments where the audience leans in. Because you feel like you see the real person, not just the character on a script. It helps that Bluesy has moral complexity. She is not wholly good or bad. When she makes a choice, there is usually at least one reason that feels sympathetic and one reason that feels flawed. She may lie, but maybe to protect someone. She may push someone away, but maybe because she's afraid of being hurt. Her loyalties sometimes conflicts with her truth. She sometimes chooses a path that's easier, but that only leads to new complications. There's tension. Does she do what's right or what's safe? She struggles with that. And because of that struggle, every decision carries weight. We care because she's not predictable. Sometimes she surprises us with grace, sometimes with stubbornness or anger. That unpredictability doesn't feel random, it feels earned. Bluesy's language, her voice itself, is distinctive. Not just in literal words, though what she says matters, but in tone. There's softness under the edge. There's humor, sometimes self-deprecating. There's sharpness, too, when she needs it. She doesn't always mask what she feels. Perhaps she lights up when talking about someone she cares for. Perhaps her voice gets tight when pushed or challenged. She uses irony, sometimes to distance herself. She uses silence, more often than many realize. Silence becomes her tool, a moment of reflection, a way to communicate too much or to withhold. And often, in those quiet moments, even when she's not speaking, you feel the weight of what she's choosing not to say. That tension, voice against silence, movement against stillness, is part of what gives Bluesy dramatic electricity. Her growth, real, visible growth, is one of the most compelling things. At the start, she may cling to old defenses, mistrust, walls, maybe cynicism. She might push people away to avoid risk. But over time, or each time something new breaks her world, they chip away at those defenses. She starts to open up. Perhaps she extends help when she might have walked away, or confesses a truth she thought she'd keep buried. Growth isn't linear. There are steps forward and slips back. But each one reveals something, a greater capacity for vulnerability, for compassion, for acceptance of her own imperfections. We watch her fight to trust. We watch her choose action over retreat. And when she acts, even imperfectly, it matters because she's doing something that was once too scary. Her relationships with others sometimes become mirrors that force her to look. When Bluesy is around people who challenge her core beliefs, she changes. It may be a partner, or a friend, or even an antagonist who crosses her in unexpected ways. These relationships expose her blind spots. Maybe places where she isn't fair, where she projects her past, where fear shapes her choices more than she'd admit. Then there are relationships that reflect her strength. People who believe in her, who support her unconditionally, who see past her layers and accept her. Interactions like that force growth. And we see how she tangles between fear of rejection and desire for connection. Maybe she sabotages something because she's not sure she's worthy. Maybe she surprises us by choosing connection anyway. That tension, when shared with another character who's willing to hold the mirror, becomes some of the richest drama the show offers. Finally, her significance in the larger canvas of General Hospital. She's not just a character among many, she carries weight. What she does ripples. She influences story arcs, touches other people's lives, and sometimes becomes a catalyst. When Bluesy acts, it matters. Her decisions affect more than just her path. They push characters she interacts with into new places. Sometimes she forces consequences. Sometimes her choices reopen old wounds for others. Sometimes she becomes someone others rely on, even if unwillingly. Her presence shifts power dynamics. Who people trust, what alliances are formed, what secrets get exposed. She isn't a backdrop. She is someone who alters the landscape. And the show writers seem aware. Bluesy's arcs often intersect major plot threads, not just romantic, but emotional, moral, familial. She helps hold together emotional continuity in the chaos. She has strengths. She has vulnerabilities that feel universal. She fears intimacy, not always relationships themselves, but what comes with letting someone see her fully. She fears betrayal, abandonment. She sometimes fears becoming the person she never wanted to be. And that fear plays out in defensive walls, in missteps, in moments of withdrawal. But even in that fear, there is courage, for it takes courage to keep going, to keep trying, to keep opening. There are moments when Bluesy could walk away but doesn't. There are moments where she could harden herself but chooses, instead, to be tender. Those are small acts, perhaps, but in her world, they speak loud. Her values, family, loyalty, truth, perhaps redemption, drive much of what she does. Not always cleanly, sometimes in messy, contradictory ways. But she holds certain principles that she won't abandon easily. Even when circumstances push her to, she comes back to those values. That return, that wrestling makes the sense that she's striving, not just stumbling. These values also shape what she cannot do. Sometimes, when the stakes are high, she refuses shortcuts that compromise what matters most to her. And in refusing, sometimes she suffers. But the suffering gives meaning to her choices. What's next for Bluesy? Because of how she's constructed, deeply emotional, and morally fraught, the possibilities are rich. Potential betrayals, revelations of secrets she thought safe, relationships fraying or strengthening. We might see her past return in a way that forces her to choose between peace and loyalty. We might see alliances she believed stable begin to crumble. There may be new romances or platonics that demand something she's never fully given before. And when those demands collide with her fears, we'll see her real test. The kind that doesn't happen in grand speeches, but in trembling confessions, in quiet moments where she chooses honesty despite her instinct to hide. There may be heartbreak. There may be conflict. But for audience members who care, every moment of growth, every moment she acts even when flawed feels like hope. Bluesy Burke, in the end, becomes memorable because she is both mirror and mystery. She reflects parts of ourselves: fear, longing, regret, bravery, and yet remains unpredictable. We lean in because we want to see what she'll do when past and present collide. We want to feel what she feels. And as long as she remains true to that inner ache, that desire for more than she has, her journey becomes one worth following with anticipation. All these threads, her emotional depth, her haunted past, her relationships, her moral complexity, her voice, her growth, her meaning converge into someone more than a role, into someone alive. And that, perhaps, is what makes Bluesy Burke not only compelling television, but something like resonance, something that stays with you beyond the screen. Come back to our channel for all your updates. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to my channel.